My husband won't stop slut-shaming me because I told him that I used to strip. How do I get him to stop? My husband and I have been married for 3 years. We actually got separated at the beginning of this year, and it was actually good for the both of us. My husband's always been a little bit, macho is the way I want to put it. He sometimes has a habit of humiliating me in front of his friends. I actually have a job that pays more than his, and this has always been a problem for him because he feels like he should be the breadwinner. So he basically makes jokes about how I'm the guy in the relationship. Our friends and family think it's totally inappropriate, but I think it's kind of funny. But when my friends explained it to me, it is kind of bad, I guess. I own 2 e-commerce businesses that I run from our house, so I'm essentially home all day. Recently, we decided that we wanted to have kids, so we started trying. Unfortunately, my husband comes from a family where they believe the women should be doing all the cooking and the cleaning, so my husband expects for me to do all of those things. And if I don't, he tells me that I'm a bad wife. He also likes to control how I dress, and he doesn't like me drinking. A few weeks ago, we went to a friend's party and I got a little drunk. And on the way home, I decided to make a confession that I used to be a stripper. And that's when I confessed that I used to be a stripper. Right then and there, he pulls the car over to the side of the road. Then he actually started interrogating me. He asked me when I started, how long I did it for, where I stripped, what I wore, what the worst thing I had ever done was. He was trying to get all the tea. Immediately, I regretted it. I honestly didn't think that it was going to be a big deal. I mean, we have been married for 3 years now, so I thought that he would be more accepting of it. But that's when I remembered he comes from a family where they think that women shouldn't even have rights. I tried to take it back as a joke, and he said that's not going to work. Proceeded to ask me questions for 2 hours on the side of the road. It was already 3 in the morning. By the end of it, I was so exhausted I started to cry and begged him to take me home. Then he said that he was afraid of even going to bed with me because I might give him an STD. That's when he told me that I probably took money for sex. I had succeeded into digging myself into the deepest hole ever. I begged him to forget and he wouldn't. That's when he pulled out his phone and started texting his brothers. He told them everything. When we got home, he made me sleep on the couch. He actually made me sleep on the couch for a full week. And he basically gave me the cold shoulder every single day. He wouldn't even look at me when I talked to him. He would do was ask me for food. Sometimes he'll just come up to me and be like, "What are you doing, slut?" His brothers told him that I was probably doing the dirty with all of these guys at the strip club, and that he shouldn't believe a word that I say. A few nights ago, he sat me down and started interrogating me again. He told me that he wanted me to tell him the truth, and for me to just confess that I had done it with all of my clients at the strip club. He's actually even threatening to go to the strip club where I used to work to ask questions about me. Mind you, the strip club is like 10 hours away from where we live. He even checked my phone and my laptop. He says that he's scared that I might still be in contact with my clients from the strip club, and that he doesn't know what I'm capable of anymore. I've been begging him for forgiveness every single day, but I kind of want to tell him to F off now. Can't take him calling me names anymore. Luckily, my parents fully support me and want me to move in with them. The only thing that I'm afraid of is that if we do get a divorce, he's gonna try to take all of my money. I have way more money than he does in the bank, and he knows it. I've been totally honest about how much money I earn. Big mistake. What should I do?
My first kiss was not just my first kiss. It was also my first makeout. 2-hour long makeout session. Let me put some Aquaphor on my lips before I tell this story because 12-year-old me, she needed some. So from first grade all the way through high school, I grew up with the same group of boys. And in this group of boys, there was this one boy who I had a little crush on. A little whittle crush on, okay? And in middle school, 7th grade specifically, this crush got a little intense. I'm talking intense. Like burning with the heat of 1,000 suns intense. At one point, there was even a little love triangle going on between me, him, and another girl, and I wanted to, tussle with her over him. That's how serious this was. Anyways, me and my friend group would always hang out every single day after school. Religiously, every single day. It was our tradition. After school, we would get off the bus and go hang out on the playground. In the field, whatever the fuck we would do. Run around the neighborhood doing little hood rat shit. Okay? Well, me and this boy, my friends would egg this on, like I said earlier. They would egg on my crush between this boy. And they would be like, "No, but he likes you too." And I'd be like, "Oh, does he really?" He didn't, actually. He ended up playing with my fucking feelings. Because of the love triangle. But I was too stupid at the time. Stupid 12-year-old me. You know. Too stupid to understand the concept that I was being played. So one afternoon, we're walking through the neighborhood. We're walking to my house. And we stop on the sidewalk next to my house. It's me, this boy that I had a crush on, and 2 of my other friends, okay? It was cold outside, so we were all sitting against the fence, huddling up against each other with our jackets, and my crush was sharing his jacket with me, so we were snuggled up next to each other. And then he's like, come under the jacket with me. And I'm like, okay. So now we're laying down on the sidewalk, on the cold sidewalk. It's 30 fucking degrees outside. with the jacket over our heads, and he kisses me. And this kissing turns into making out. For I'm not kidding, 2 hours. No tongue, no nothing. Nothing special. Just and at one point my friend was like, "What are you guys doing under there?" And we were like, "Fuck off, leave us alone." And then we would get back to it. The worst part is that we would continue to do this every single time that we hung out for the next 2 weeks.
Today I found out my 19 male boyfriend has been cheating on me 18F with his mother for our entire relationship. My BF and I have been together for almost a year now. We met at my mall food court job and immediately hit it off. After a month of knowing each other, he asked me to be his GF. Of course I said yes. Our relationship has been pretty great up to his point. He takes me on dates, compliments me, and just makes me feel super special. The only weird thing is he would never let me meet his mom. His parents are divorced and have been for almost his entire life. The divorce was messy and his father ended up getting full custody. They had the typical every other weekend and 6 weeks out of the summer set up. I have met his dad and his paternal family, but he would be weird when I brought his mom up. He would tell me things like, "We have a complicated relationship," or "I'll tell you about it later on." About 3 months into the relationship I began to realize he would never answer his mother's calls or texts around me. He would hastily clear it out or step into another room to talk to her, even if it was just texting. I tried to not let it bother me because I wanted to respect his boundaries. Last week he spent the night with me for the first time. I woke up around 3 a.m. because of a bad dream and I couldn't go back to sleep. I rolled over to grab my phone in the dark but accidentally picked his up instead. I looked at the messages from his mother. I opened his phone and began to read through them and noticed they were mostly very explicit. There would be private images exchanged, hardcore sex, and messages for them to meet up for intimacy. I read the conversations in disbelief. I tried to pretend like it wasn't real and I dreamed it. A few days later I confronted his about it. It didn't take long before he broke down and told me everything. He had been having sex with his mother since he was 13 years old. They usually have intercourse once a week, sometimes more. They've been doing this throughout our entire relationship. He never told her that he had a GF because he wanted them to still have their weekly sessions. At this point I DK what to do. I love him with all of my heart, but I am so disgusted with him and his mother. I haven't talked to him since he told me everything. After he told me I ran out and drove to a town 2 hours away. I blocked him on every social media and his phone number. I changed the locks to my house. I have also called the week into work so he can't find me. What should I do? Make it work out or break up with him? Update. Thank you everyone for your advice and kind words. I have decided that I am going to talk to his dad and him both. I'll talk to his father first then him. That way his father can help me figure out what course of action we may need to take. I messaged both of them an hour ago. His father agreed to meet this afternoon. I unblocked BF and I'm still waiting on a reply from him. Update. I have no idea where to start with the events that have occurred within the past 11 hours since I last posted. I am still shaken up and this is hard to process. My BF finally messaged me back a few hours after I asked him to meet up with me. He agreed to meet me at his apartment. I made sure that I was going to talk to his dad before him so he could help me find the correct course of action for my BF. Well, I met with the father, we will call him X. I was so scared before talking to X that I was shaking. My voice was unsteady and I had tears in my eyes when I walked in. I had no idea where to begin. X looked concerned so he sat us down across from each other. I told X that I believe his son has been experiencing SA for 6 years now. Of course, X was taken aback. I started to tell him about what my BF told me. That's when X started to be more and more puzzled. He stopped me while telling the story I knew about my BF and his mother. X told me that there's no way this is completely true. When he says this I start getting confused as well. X tells me that my BF's mother died in a car accident when he was 8. X never remarried or had a GF. At this point I am dumbfounded and I have no idea what to say. X tells me that he didn't think my BF's mother was committing SA while she was alive or why my BF would even tell me this. X also tells me that he have no idea who mom might be on his phone. I take a few minutes to calm down and think before I head over to my BF's apartment. The drive was only 10-ish minutes from X's house to my BF's. I took this time to process what X told me and what I would say to my BF. When I got to the apartment I promptly went inside. I demanded answers immediately. I asked the truth about his mother, the messages I saw, and if they've really been having sex since he was 13. Of course he apologized again and gave me the same story, but it made me angry. This is where I lost my cool. I yelled and told him that X told me that his biological mother had been dead for almost 11 years. I told him I knew there was no way the story he told me was true because his mother passed when he was 8 years old. My BF became silent and looked down. At this point I was crying uncontrollably. I felt so bad for what happened and I wanted to get him therapy. I was willing to forgive him for keeping the secret from me. My BF was silent for a few minutes then finally spoke to me. He told me he made the whole story up. The contact he had as mom was an ex-girlfriend he regularly hooked up with. She was 20 and a bartender in our city. He put her name as mom so I wouldn't get suspicious that he was talking to another woman so often. He didn't think I would find out so he fabricated the whole story up. This way, I wouldn't be mad at him. He told me he figured I would feel sorry for him and stay with him. I felt so betrayed when he confessed this. In past few days I went from having a healthy relationship to thinking my BF had been experiencing SA by his mother then to find out it was all a lie just because he didn't want me to know he was sleeping with this ex. He tried to justify it further, telling me it was meaningless and he only loved me. I told my BF that I want nothing to do with him and left. He tried to follow and plead with me but I ignored him. I drove home, threw out everything he gave me, and blocked him once again. I cannot believe he lied about something so major just to protect himself. I haven't stopped crying since I left his apartment. I'm so hurt and now I don't know what to do. I no longer want him in my life. I'm considering moving towns so he can't find me. He has gotten online and used a fake number to try and get a hold of me to apologize. I need to clear my head and try to take everything in. I will turn off my phone and computer for a while so he can't try to contact me again. Update. So my now ex-BF came to my apartment and started banging on the door, begging to be let in so we could talk. At this point I have turned all the lights off. I am being quiet so he will hopefully leave. I know he can see my car out front so it's obvious that I am here still. I want to call the cops but I am not sure there's much they can do. I'm thinking about going back to live with my parents until this blows over with him. I am also considering talking to his ex that he was hooking up with. I got her full name and where she works. I will keep updates as I learn more about my ex-BF. Update number 2. I am having a lot of people send me messages so thank you for the kind words. I can't reply to everyone's messages so at the bottom of the comments I added some additional commentary on everyone's suspicions. Please read it to answer any questions if you're still unsure. Please note that there are some personal details I left out in order to keep privacy. X. How his mother died, there's a reason he didn't talk about it. Edit. So I have been noticing a lot of similar comments, so many that I can't reply individually to each one of them. I'll just clarify some common questions I keep seeing. This account was made to get this off my chest and be a throwaway so here this goes. 1. The explicit images. Yes, it seems out there that I couldn't tell. Here is why it was difficult, because they were all close-ups of the private parts. Looking back if I would have paid more attention yes I could have known but I wasn't thinking about that at the time. I was scared. 2. The phone. It was dark and I picked one off the nightstand and opened it. No he didn't have a passcode. Yes I did realize it was his but kept reading. I was just alarmed from the few messages I read on his lock screen so I decided to keep reading. 3. Dead mother. I asked about his mother many times but no one ever gave me a fraud answer. They were always vague, like they didn't want to talk about her. We had only been dating for a few months and I don't feel like I should press about something someone doesn't want to discuss. 4. The ex. I cannot post much at this point on here because I decided to take legal action. I got into contact with his ex and I can say this isn't the first time he has done something sociopathic like this. He has made some illegal moves in her and I decided to take this a step further. 5. My job. No I not longer work at the food court. I have a better paying job at the moment. I do have an apartment that my parents help pay for and they gave me a car to drive until I can support myself. My parents are super supportive and caring, they always have been. They're the only reason I am able to have what I have. Edit. I ended up talking to his ex. We had a long conversation and I learned some other information. She told me she had no idea what I was talking about when I said what he told me. She claims she hasn't talked to him in months because of a restraining order she has against him. He harassed her when she broke up with him back in 2017. She also almost had a child with him but decided to abort it when they broke up. I cannot disclose why they broke it off. I am considering a restraining order as well. Since the ex says she's not who he was cheating on me with, I have no idea who it is. I could care less at this point. I can't tell much else since I want legal action. I have told what I can to the best of my ability.
I have this friend who's low-key homophobic, and she asked me to not wear makeup to her dinner tonight. So, you know what we're gonna do? Oh, we're gonna do my makeup right now, and I'm gonna look sickening. I'm literally gonna make her sick. I low-key didn't want to go, but then I thought about it, and I was like, you know what? I can't let her get the best of me, so I'm gonna show up with my makeup and an outfit, and oh oh, I'm gonna prove her wrong. I am going to prove her wrong. And I just want to let you guys know that at the end of the day, the number one important thing is your happiness and like doing what you love. And so that's what I'm doing. And that's what I think everybody should do and what we should normalize doing. And I hope you guys know that like no friend should ever make you feel like you can't be yourself around them. And every friend that you have should support you 100% and just be a good friend, because a friend who isn't supportive isn't a friend at all. You guys, I showed up and she was literally shook. She was looking at me like her face was giving all sorts of angry and bitter. And when I was walking up to the table, I was like, there is no way she is getting in the way of me looking like a bad bitch. Like, you can make me feel bad about myself, but you will not stop me from looking and feeling like a bad bitch. So I walked up to the table and it was so awkward. It was literally like, okay, you know when you're at a family party and someone says something they shouldn't and everyone's just like sitting there in silence? Yeah, everyone at the table was like, oh shit, she does not like that. So after literally sitting in the awkward silence, she looks at me and goes, you're just so confident and courageous. You just really, and at that point I was like, okay, let's not, because that was the most like pick me backhanded thing she could have said, because it was just, I knew what she meant. I literally knew what she meant, and we all know exactly what she meant, because after that it was silence again, and then she just acknowledged somebody else. The funniest thing about the fakest, worst people is they will never say something like outright nasty in your face. They'll say something more backhanded, but then behind your back, oh, what they say is like literally awful. She made it so clear that she didn't want me to wear makeup, and doing it anyways, like low-key made me feel like such a baddie, but I was so nervous going into it, if I'm completely honest. Like, that's why I documented the TikToks, because I was like, I don't want to do this alone. I want to do this with somebody else. I was so nervous. But honestly, it was like the best thing I've ever done. And I feel like it also, I don't know, helped me a lot with confidence as well. Now, that being said, we are not friends anymore. I'm not going to be friends with her moving forward. But I hope you guys know that you should always surround yourself with people that support you for who you are. And they love you for you. And just have true friends. Like, make sure all of your friends are really, really true friends.
Am I the asshole for canceling my credit card after my boyfriend refused to return it to me? I'll preface this by saying that I, 27 female, and my boyfriend, 30 male, have been together for 3.5 years. I've been jumping from one job to another while he has been unemployed due to health issues that affected his performance at work. Usually, I'm the one handling rent, bills, groceries, etc. I use my credit card to make any purchases I want. Last week, my boyfriend out of nowhere asked for my credit card. I asked why, since I'm the one who handles payments and supermarket trips. He told me he wanted to buy some food, and I agreed to let him take it, but told him to return it later. He got back later, and when I asked about my credit card, he was like, what credit card? I thought he was just joking, so I told him to just give it back. He said he'd just keep it with him. I asked why, and he said so he could start handling paying for stuff on my behalf. I felt uncomfortable. I said I'd rather not burden him with this stuff and asked him to hand over the credit card. He refused and said that he'll just keep it since it doesn't have that much money anyways. I was livid. I tried to argue, but he told me to just trust him and let him keep it and swore he won't spend a penny from it. Next morning, I went and canceled it, then registered a new one. He must have had tried to use it because he called and was confused, asking why the credit card was not valid anymore. I told him it's because I canceled it and registered a new one. He lost it and started scolding me, saying he couldn't believe I had this level of petty, and kept on about how I don't trust him with my finances and how financially abusive I have become lately. I hung up on him. Good. The argument continued at home, and he called me paranoid and unreasonable and all that. Then he started cold shouldering me and sulking about it for days. I do feel like I hurt his feelings and showed an amount of distrust towards him. So, am I the asshole for canceling the credit card? Adding for some more info. Like I said, he has a physical disability that limits his opportunities for work. He receives no disability benefits because he doesn't want to. He refuses to acknowledge he has a disability and pretends that it doesn't exist at all. When I tell him to look for a job, he'd blame people for purposely refusing to employ him and say that they look down on him like he's lacking or beneath them. Since someone asked, the answer is, I do almost 80% of the chores while he does the other 20%. Reasons for that is his disability. Finally, I pay for rent, bills, groceries, his meds, and transportation as well, so I needed the card to be constantly with me.
I, 27 female, have been with my boyfriend, 30 male, for about 8 years. We've talked about marriage multiple times throughout our relationship, but both agree that it's not what either of us want, for right now at least. The only reason I would get married is later on for medical and administrative reasons, but also because I get to wear a pretty dress. He feels the same way, which is something that we settled at the beginning of our relationship. Now is where my mother comes in. She's always had this idea of what my life should look like. She always thought I would be married and popping out babies by now, but that really isn't what I want for myself. I have become a master at just ignoring all of her constant remarks about my relationship status and how badly she wants to be a grandma. I told her that I understand, but it's not what me and my boyfriend want for the moment. I've had this conversation with her many times, but she just won't let it go. I had noticed recently that my boyfriend was acting secretive, but honestly, I just thought he was planning something for my birthday. Fast forward to this weekend. We were hosting a family dinner for my birthday, and my whole family flew out to be here. During that night, I noticed that my mom and boyfriend were constantly sneaking around and whispering, but I didn't think much of it. Everything was going great until it was time to open presents, and suddenly, it gets to my boyfriend's turn, and he gets down on one knee and proposes to me in front of everyone. I was shocked and immediately told him and asked him what he was doing. Things got awkward fast. I took him aside and asked what was going on, and that we had talked about this not being the right time and neither of us wanting to be married for now. Turns out, my mother has been telling him for months how apparently I'm dying to get married, but I don't want to tell him because I know he's not ready, and that I don't want to push him away, but that if he loved me, he would take this step because it's what I want. I was livid. I immediately went back to where everyone was and started yelling at my mom, telling her that this is a new low even for her, and I can't believe that she would be so selfish, and basically tricked my boyfriend into proposing to me. She replied by saying that she only did this because she thought it was what I wanted, and I told her that no mom, this is what you wanted, and stormed out. I haven't contacted her since, but I received messages from multiple family members saying I shouldn't have yelled at her in front of everyone, especially since she thought she was doing the right thing. Am I wrong for yelling at my mom in front of my whole family because she pushed my boyfriend into proposing to me?
Y'all be talking with your friends and you get to a subject that y'all just completely different about, right? Just complete opposite ends of the spectrum. And then you realize it's not so much that you're different, it's more, I have a problem. Like one of my really good friends and I, we started talking about coffee. I'm like, I love coffee. I'm like, you drink coffee? He goes, no. I'm like, okay, you drink energy drinks? He's like, no. I'm like, all right, you drink soda? He's like, no. I'm like, all right, what do you drink? He goes, water. I'm like, just water? He's like, yeah, pretty much. I'm like, okay, riddle me this. If you're in the middle of the day, right, and you're tired, and you need a little boost, what do? He goes, I don't really have that. What do you mean you don't have that? I'm like, oh, okay. So you're just telling me you're never tired. That's what you're telling me. He's like, no, I just never think I have a boost. Like, I'm usually fine. I'm like, so you just keep that same energy level throughout the whole day? He's like, yeah, pretty much. I've known this dude my entire life. He's energetic as fuck, right? He's on like an 8 or 9 at all times. And now I'm learning he's never used caffeine? Bullshit. Now I'm calling Cap and I'm pissed. I'm like, dude, how are you like this? I take an upper of like 10 minutes. I'm tired as fuck. He's like, oh. I just had a venti shaken espresso from Starbucks, right? That's with an extra shot. That's 5 shots of espresso. I could take a nap right fucking now. That's not even a joke. Then, like, the more we started talking, I realized he's just healthy. And I may have a caffeine problem.
I got pulled over, but the problem is I wasn't driving. It was a girl. The officer walks up to the car and immediately she's like, what's the problem, officer? He was like, ma'am, you were speeding. Can I see a license, please? She was like, I would give it to you, but I don't have one. She was like, I got my license suspended 4 years ago. The officer was confused, but he was like, okay, can I see a vehicle's registration, please? She's like, no, I can't do that. The car is stolen. The officer was like, stolen, huh? And at this point, he asked for the keys and said, wait right here, I'll be back. When he leaves, I tap her. I'm like, what is wrong with you? What are you doing? She looked at me and said, calm down. Let me do my thing. Now, when the officer is coming back to the car, she didn't even let him say a thing. She said, I got something in the trunk too, and winked at him. He took a couple steps back and called backup on his walkie-talkie. At this point, I just saw my life flash before my eyes. At this point, the senior officer comes, and the girl I was with was like, what's the problem, sir? He said, well, one of my officers informed me that this is a stolen vehicle and there's something in the trunk. Can you please open the trunk? She opens it and the trunk is empty. He comes to the front and says, is this vehicle yours, ma'am? She says yes and hands him the registration papers. Then he says, well, I was informed you don't have a license. So she picks up her purse, starts looking through it and pulls out her license and gives it to him. At this point, he's shocked and he's like, well, my officer told me you don't have a license. The vehicle's not yours and there's something in the trunk. Now the girl says, wow, really? I bet you that liar said I was speeding too.
Please, whatever you do, let me be your guardian angel. Do not drink and drive. I'm gonna pull up the game film, but we had the bottles, the hose, the clothes, the whole 9 yards. So we had this big ass Grey Goose that was just so unnecessary and way too much for everybody. So night's going well. I'm typically on my bully as usual, with the baddest bitches in the group as the group leader, and here's the proof. As you can see, I'm the fucking Grim Reaper. Stole my man's bitch. But you already know, hate always comes from fucking below. So we're all having a good time, kicking it. It's getting to like the 144 range. That's when they turn the lights on. So when they turn the fucking lights on, we have two type of people in my friend group. We have the settlers that get with the fucking heifers, and then the men with character that actually look for a legitimate play with some bad hoes. So I thought we were going to have an after party with these three girls, and that fell through because one of them was too plastered. They had to go take her home. So once that happened, everyone likes to gatekeep moves. I'm like, I'm not dealing with this shit tonight. I'm going home. So my dumb ass decides to hop on the freeway, and I'm literally 5 minutes away from my house. And I turn my head to the right, and I see a fucking cop car. I'm like, please don't get my black ass. And right when I see those white lights come on, those little headlights come on, I'm like, damn, they got my dumb ass. And I was low-key thinking about doing the race on my 10K shit. I was like, let me not do all that. So I'm like, fuck. I see those red, white, and blue lights come on. This bitch pulled me over to the right side. I was like, damn. She's like, where are you coming from? And you have to realize I'm coming in a clubbing fit. So thank God I didn't lie to her ass. I came from downtown Royal Oak. And she's like, did you have anything to drink? And I was like, yeah. Yeah. I had a White Claw. And basically she tells me to step out the fucking vehicle. So once this happens, the female officer tells me to get out the vehicle, and she called for backup. And the backup officer was an alumni from my old high school. So they basically explained to me that I need to do a field sobriety test, and they start checking my pupils. And then I swear to God, when I had to hold my one leg in the air for 35 seconds. And of course, the fucking gust of wind low-key made me tip over. And once that happened, the look in her eyes gave me we're about to lock this nigga up. Once that shit happens, old girl tells me I need to hop in the back of the police cruiser. So once this shit, I had so many thoughts going through my head. And I'm like, fuck, bro, it's so quiet for me. And basically, they give me the option. I have to do the breathalyzer, and we're about to fucking cut off, so I gotta do a part 2.